Hi, everybody, and welcome to the State of the School address here at Villa. We are going to begin this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cardish to open us up with a prayer.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to do our best tonight. Normally this would be done in person, but here we are with me and Mrs. Carr and the Blessed Mother, so we can't go too far astray. But as we gather here this evening, let's offer up any special intentions we hold in our hearts. As a community, we pray for our Sisters of St. Casimir. Please pray for Maria Middleton, our student. There's a simultaneous rosary happening now, so if you can say a Hail Mary during the next 45 minutes or so, it would be in concert with hundreds of people praying for Maria. And we pray for the health and safety of everybody in our country and our world. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Generous God, we thank you for the gift of Villa Joseph Marie High School. We thank you for our students, their families, our faculty and staff, and for the legacy of our Sisters of St. Casimir and their foundress, Mother Maria Kalpas. Compassionate Father, we thank you for journeying with us during this challenging school year and for the outpouring of your love and accompaniment through it all. In a letter written to the sisters in 1932, Mother Maria shares the following wisdom. Though God's plans for our future is unknown to us, it behooves us to be prepared for all things, especially for trials and all troubles. Hence, I dare to offer you a personal motto. Fortified with good intention, wherever you are and whatever you do, always keep it in mind. God is here. God wills this. Especially let us be permeated with the thought that God is within us, and all that God grants or permits flows from the love God has for us. Second, let us form the habit of seeing God in every person with whom we live, those for whom we work, those for whom we meet, and even in those persons who might persecute us. May we continue to look to our sisters, our foundress, for their inspiration in the days and weeks ahead. And may we ask God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit to remain with us as we journey into the summer months and prepare for our next school year. May God continue to bless all of those in our Villa community, keep us safe and healthy so that we can continue to do God's work on earth. Amen. Perhaps my favorite thing I get to do this evening is to introduce our principal, Mrs. Lauren Carr. I have often said in my career that you really find out what people are made of when the you-know-what hits the fan. And this spring, I think our community was blessed by the leadership of our principal, Lauren Carr. I was just very happy to be part of the community that she was leading through this crisis. And as a point of reference, all I'm going to say to you is I had a daughter, my third daughter, Juliana, graduate from college this year. And this semester, she had no community, she had no grades, and she had no graduation. So I'd like to think that we did pretty well compared to that institution of higher education. So without further ado, Mrs. Carr, thank you for all you've done. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, and everybody, welcome tonight. We are working, obviously, from the new main lobby. If anybody is writing in the chat as we are going, we will look at those chat comments when we eventually stop sharing the screen. At the moment, I do not see the chat visible on our computer, so please, we will get back to you. If you have questions, just type them in the chat and we'll be able to address them. So I'm going to start right off the bat with everything that's happened in the last about 3 months with COVID-19. So we obviously started online learning the Wednesday of March 18th. It was fairly seamless. we were able to have all of our students already using Canvas, which was such a plus. The fact that we were using it for 3 years prior really made a difference. The teachers learned how to use the conference tool. They had some preparation time leading up to it. And truly, as Mr. Carter said, we were able to give grades. We were able to continue learning. After surveying the families, we were able to see that we needed a little bit of screen time rest, and that's why we implemented the Wednesday office hours. And I am thrilled to say that we all survived online learning with very little notice. So I applaud the students, I applaud the staff, and I applaud the families who had to also support children of varying ages throughout this process. But truly, it really was as seamless as we could have hoped for. In the midst of the COVID scenario, we had to revamp and replan and redo a lot of different things. But the one piece that really stood out was social media and communication. I have to highlight Mrs. Franzo and Mrs. Gorman for really keeping our social media accounts live and active and giving everybody the information that they needed to hear and see throughout this whole process. Our social media really became a major means of communication. It was an area that we released updates for families, alumni, and students. It allowed us to have students and staff doing announcements. It allowed us to be able to share some fun videos. Many of you got glimpses into home life for our staff members and our students. We were able to have things like our Be the Light event for our seniors, our athlete recognitions, both end of the award ceremonies for our underclassmen and our seniors, and we were able to share it with all of you because of that. So the one thing I really appreciate is how creative we had to get, and things like our student council campaigns. Traditionally that would have been in the school, and the fact that we had to go to a fully online version of the campaign truly was amazing. And I have to thank Mrs. Ryan and Miss May and the Student Council Executive Board candidates for being able to tackle that task. Because the social media accounts are growing every day, we want to thank all of you. You continue to use the hashtag AlwaysVilla. You continue to tag us in posts and share updates. And that really for us is amazing. I know that we have our current families as well as our incoming. We have staff on this call. We have members of our board of directors. So you all are our greatest marketing tools. So continue to share and tag us and keep us posted, especially in these summer months with all of the up-to-date things that you're doing. With the stay-at-home order, we also implemented our vjmhs.org/care plan page. And it's been used to house all of the important information related to curriculum updates, to the live conferences, to Global Connect phone calls. We will continue to keep this page active. Obviously, the situation is fluid. We know that there are different changes that could be coming for the upcoming school year. So we will keep that care plan up to date. At any given time, if you're looking for information, that is your best avenue to go to. So again, that's vjmhs.org/care plan. Another change that happened due to COVID-19 was the AP testing. College Board decided to go to abbreviated versions of the tests. They gave some extensions. They also adjusted the content that the teachers needed to cover. And at this point in time, we can say 19 AP courses were administered to our students. We had 120 students register for the exams. And again, because of the pandemic, students were allowed to take this exam on one date or an optional other date. To answer the question that probably some of you may have chimed into this meeting for, do I think we're going to be in person in the fall? Here's where I stand. Yes, I do. I do really think we're going to be here in the fall. I think we have the full capability to keep our students safe, keep our staff safe. I think following the guidelines that are in place at the moment, it's definitely doable. Will there need to be some changes? Absolutely. Will we need to consider how large of a school-wide assembly we can have at any given time? Sure, but that might just mean we have 2 school-wide assemblies on a given day as opposed to 1. So again, being creative is our specialty. We're willing to do it, but yes, I do really foresee us being here in the fall months. We did a couple of updates this year when it comes to curriculum and various things. So let's shift gears a little bit. We introduced our Microsoft Office 365 accounts to all of our students and staff. This allowed all students, whether they were a Mac user, or if they were using a Chromebook, or if they were using a laptop of any sort, to all have the same platform when it comes to Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. We really want to emphasize that this was our first year using these email accounts, and next year we're going to continue that. And I want you to realize that we are going to use that as a school-wide communication tool. So I know a lot of students didn't utilize it often this year, but we will begin to really take hold of that, let everybody use it. It's very easy for everybody to remember their emails because it's just their first and last name. So we want to continue having all of our students on the Microsoft account. And it's free. So families that are thinking, especially incoming, if you are thinking about purchasing a Microsoft 365 suites, do not purchase it. All right, your daughter will get their own account in the fall and you'll have access to all of those items. We did utilize these Microsoft accounts with our report cards for the third quarter mailings. Instead of mailing it out, we were in literally the first 2 weeks of the quarantine. We didn't want to have to send out multiple items and try to get that handled in that technique. So what we did was we emailed them, and I will say it was successful. We were able to get everybody their report cards, and to the families who maybe the daughters weren't able to access that email account, we just sent it to the email account on file. So I do feel that we are going to move forward beginning next school year using that as our means to get the report cards out to you. For the current report card, the one that needs to go out now for fourth quarter and the end of this year, we will mail that out. Right now, we are still matriculating the grades, again, because the teachers have not been able to be in the building in large quantities. We have not been able to input everything as fast as we typically would. So we will get those report cards mailed out somewhere in the next week or so. Seniors, your transcripts will automatically be forwarded. They are not affected by this. Incoming, incoming families, you were already communicated kind of the guidelines for bring your own device. So if you did not receive your summer mailer today, it will probably be there tomorrow. I know that I received quite a few emails regarding schedules that arrived today, so everybody, you'll see them in the next day or so. We continue to use Blackboard as our emergency communication tool, and families, we will continue that next year. That's just the global phone calls that we utilize when we want to get messages out immediately. Some summer updates. Canvas for any student that might have summer work. So maybe it's for an AP class or other classes that require summer work. You will be enrolled in the appropriate summer club, and that's how I'll call it. It's not technically a course, but it has the same name. So for example, AP World History. All students that are in that class will be enrolled within the next week or so, and will get all of your summer assignments out to you. If it requires a textbook of some sort or any physical item, we will set up a time for you to pick those up. Our summer classes are in full effect. We have our Summer Honors Spanish 2 occurring as we speak during this time of the year. We also have 4 classes being offered in Summer Session 2. They include Honors Geometry, Honors Psychology, Honors Pre-Calculus, and Honors American Civ 2. If there are any students who are still interested in enrolling for the second half of the summer, we still have spots. And again, these classes are in person. We have guidelines that are in place, and everyone so far has been doing really great with them. As far as course scheduling and course selection goes, some new courses ran this year. We had our American Law, Women's Studies, our Intro to Engineering, Theater Tech, Advanced AP Portfolio, AP World History, AP French, Advanced Latin 5. So quite a few classes that we were able to add in. For next school year, I'm happy to say that we do have new courses in that we have an additional Theater Tech class. We have Environmental Sustainability, which is the next engineering course. We do have an Advanced Portfolio number 2 for the art curriculum. The American Civilization 2 is running, and the Honors Pre-Calculus this summer. We're still at our average class size of 12. For next school year, as I've been doing the schedules, we are looking at 20 or less per every class. And obviously with guidelines in place with the CDC, that is still my hope that they will all remain less than 20, and most of them are. Our schedules, I know for the ladies that are watching, you might be asking, when are we getting our schedules? Well, I gave those schedules to Mrs. Schuster today. They are in envelopes and they will be out in tomorrow's mail. So you should see them in the next 2 to 3 days. For the families who I contacted personally about a schedule issue, we'll send yours out as soon as we get those taken care of. The grading scale this year was updated. So we had a first full year of the new grading system, which now includes A minuses, B minuses, C minuses, and so on. Seniors for next year, all right? So our current juniors going to be seniors. Parking, I know, is a big topic that comes up for you. So seniors, you get to be assigned your parking spots on a first come, first served basis. After seniors have been given their spots, juniors, you then have your dibs at any of the remaining spots. Mrs. Brown will reach out to the seniors and juniors in mid-August to give you instructions for how to apply. As far as the junior class goes, for your rings, we have contacted Herff Jones. We are setting up a date for in July for them to be in the building. You'll be able to come in, look at the items, try them on. For any families who maybe can't make it on the days that Herff Jones gives us, we can work with you and get those rings ordered online. The school continues to do ALICE training, so I know that we were out of the building for a little bit, but for our staff, they had lots of training in the beginning half of the year. To the families, we were supposed to have your introduction literally the week that online learning began. So we will begin to do that again in the early fall with all of our students and families. I'm very excited to say that our growth mindset program that began this year will continue. So the students and the staff did a tremendous job embracing the growth mindset and learning that there is always a yet and more as opposed to not. So I am happy to say that that will continue with next school year. As far as how you contact anybody during the summer months, you can reach out to Mrs. Schuster in our administrative office. You can reach out to myself, Mr. Kardish. We're here throughout the summer. If you reach out to a teacher, they may not respond right away as they are not necessarily actively checking their emails daily, just like they would in the school year. So please give teachers some time. But if there's an immediate need, myself, Mr. Kardish, or Mrs. Schuster are your best avenues. And we can be accessed either via email or phone. With our strategic plan, we had that in place, and Mr. Kardish will discuss it a little bit more later. But I'm happy to say that our educational programming committee is in full effect for this summer, and we'll be looking at ways to update our curriculum both now and in the future. For mission and ministry and our campus ministry program, your daughters continue to impress us with their ability to live out the always more, always better, always with love motto. They truly are one of a kind, and I think this quarantine really showed us the hearts that every one of your daughters have. Over the course of the school year, 100% of our students participated in faith life through masses, prayer services, and retreats. We had 100% of the student body take part in 5,540 service hours. And that is before the quarantine even happened. So that is a tremendous accomplishment. We had 144 leadership opportunities this year. 58 students participated in service and immersion trips. And again, that is just from September till March. We typically have additional service opportunities over Easter break and right now at the end of the school year. So 58 students were able to take advantage of that. We had 53 optional faith and service programs offered this year. We intentionally try to provide a variety of opportunities so that our students can experience their faith and know our sisters of St. Casimir and understand the legacy of Mother Maria and grow in their relationship with God. And that is something that we will continue to do. We really take pride in our students' desire to serve and live out the mission. So this school year, we also had 4 teachers that assisted in this, and they really helped to enhance our Community Service Corps, our Catholic Relief Services Club, and the various retreat programs. During the quarantine, even though we weren't really checking up on service hours, our students went above and beyond for this innate call to help. So I'm happy to share some of the things that they did. We had students that made masks for medical professionals. We had staff members that used the 3D printers to assist the various hospitals and medical programs. Students painted inspirational rocks and placed them around neighborhoods. They used sidewalk chalk to brighten up areas. They collected food and delivered it to Serenelli House. They wrote letters and sent videos to residents in various nursing homes. They sent videos to our own Sisters of St. Casimir. We also had weekly prayer services that students and staff took part in. We had our senior Vespers retreat online this year. We had weekly rosaries that our staff members took part in as well. So our mission and ministry program, even with this quarantine, is alive and well. We understand that some areas of service and faith programs might be a little bit different next year, and at least for part of the school year. So we're prepared to work with the various student leaders. We want to make sure that we continue to find creative ways to be a part of the community and put Villa out there. The other item that campus ministry does is our yearly fundraiser. And this year our students voted on Hope-a-thon. So we have our updated dance marathon happening December 11th. And there are 50 student leaders that are assisting with that. They've already been working on this endeavor, and the proceeds go to 2 different organizations. From an athletic standpoint, we have 14 varsity sports that go across 3 seasons. Obviously, the spring season was a little different this year. But looking ahead to next year, I know a lot of families probably have questions about what do fall sports look like. Here's what we know right now. We know that PIAA still has August 17th as the start day for fall sports. We know that impact testing dates for our new freshmen or transfers or students that are new to the athletic programs, they will be able to take their impact testing at a date that will be coming up, and we will give you the location and the time in the near future. But you will only need the impact testing, again, if you are a new student to Villa, if you are new to the athletic program in any capacity. The fall athletics orientation and concussion education presentation that all families have to take part in, that will be online this year. So you won't have to worry about trying to get here. We'll be able to get that information out to you ahead of time, but you do need to take part in that in order for your child to be eligible to be in the fall sports. The July captains practices that typically happen here on site, that information will be disseminated as soon as it's known by each of the different sports. And all incoming freshmen that want to take part in captains practices, you must have already graduated from your elementary school or your grade school. But again, that information will be forthcoming. And for those that don't know what captains practices mean, it means that the senior students or the upper classmen students, they run practices kind of as a pre-training to the tryouts in August. All prospective fall sport athletes, you have to fill out the PIAA form that is on our website. It's also on Family ID, but you really need to fill out section 6. So again, this information was sent out in the mailer to the incoming families. We also have it for all of our current families. Family ID registration will be open as of July 1st. And obviously everything with COVID means that this is fluid. So if we get updates, I know that there's a PIAA meeting next week. Our hope is that we'll be able to continue to just be as transparent as possible. From an admission standpoint, you know, we welcome our next class, our class of 2024. We're excited to have you here as our Villa Gems. We know that your 8th grade year did not look the way you expected, but just know that we are so excited to have you. We can't wait to see you in person. We also have, from an admission standpoint, all of our camps this summer still, you know, with registration wide open. So if you're looking to get into our summer scholars, our EDGE program, maybe our cram session, we have our FIRST, which is for our incoming freshmen. It's a leadership camp. All of those registrations are still alive and active on our website. Again, there will be some changes to maybe the service sites for some of them, but otherwise we're happy to have them here in person. One item that we did have this year because of the scenario with COVID that really was a great success was our spring open house. It ended up being virtual. We had more shares and more views and more screen time watching our open house than standard years. So thank you to everybody that visited it. A lot of people really took time and effort to make it work. I know one fun fact with it was typically on our website, the average person will spend about 6 minutes, you know, browsing and searching for what they need. When we went live with the open house, the average time was over 22 minutes. So thank you for viewing and hopefully sharing it with many families and saying what a great job we're doing here. I have to be, you know, so upfront about nobody could have anticipated this year the way it worked, but it worked. So I am just thrilled that everybody was able to work through the challenges, get through the COVID situation, still have a smile on our face. And I think that's what Bill is about. Everybody really was so flexible and accommodating. So I thank you for that. I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Cardish now for him to take his end.
Thanks, Mrs. Carr. Sure, I have a couple of things I would like to touch on. One is, it's very important for our institution to know where we're going. And we had an outside facilitator with a lot of experience take us through a strategic planning process for a couple of years. And we have 13 strategic objectives that we're going to be focusing on in the next 4 or 5 years. And they're actually listed on our website. So one of the things we're proud of is trying to share with everybody what our goals are and to solicit your help and your ideas in achieving them. So I'm very happy to report that we have a strong, engaged board of directors, and you know, your school, our school, is in very good hands with strong leadership. Second thing I want to touch on is our facility here. Of all years to be kind of truncated, we got robbed of Legally Blonde in our beautiful Performing Arts Center, but I'm sure we'll put it on in the fall or at some point in the future. So really, this place, even where Mrs. Carr and I are sitting, is dramatically different than it was in September. And we're just so pleased with what we were able to do. You know, there was a new class this year on theater tech. It was the second year of that. So we have some students that are really learning to operate our state-of-the-art Performing Arts Center. And not to forget that we didn't forget the middle of the school, but we refurbished and really redid everything in our student lounge. And it's a beautiful new space right in the middle of the school that all the girls walk through probably 14 times a day, changing classes. And it's a good place to relax and catch up with friends. So we're really pleased with that. Something that nobody could see, but was a major issue for us is, you know, this school was a little bit old in some places. And our original school dates back from the 1950s, and we actually had to rebuild our boiler. If anybody's interested, and you girls, you get to see it on your senior Vespers ghost tour, but there is a boiler room in the basement, and it looks like a couple of giant submarines down there, but we had to rebuild the boiler. Mother Maria was looking out for us because it didn't happen. It didn't, you know, need that to be rebuilt or need to be fixed until March. So we really were lucky that we got through the heating season. But that was a major thing that nobody's going to see, but was a major effort for us, and we're very pleased to say that that's finished. There's so much that happens here all the time. You know, we have the beautiful grounds. We have a 60-acre campus, the new landscaping that we put in as part of the Performing Arts Center construction. And really, this place, if those of you that have been able to come in have seen how it literally gleams. The Adams family does a wonderful job taking care of us and leading the effort and keeping us perfect. One thing that has been delayed by COVID is our RACP grant, which is the state money that's funding half of our STEM hallway, which is going to be the main hallway, and the new student center in the middle of that hallway in the front of the school. That was delayed by 1 year. So all the projects from the state essentially were pushed back. So we look to start that construction in June of 2021. We are still fundraising for that to fund our half of it, but I'm 100% confident that next June we will be breaking ground and really making the school even more spectacular. One of the things that happened while nobody was in the building this spring was our guidance department had arguably the most spectacular year in terms of college acceptances in the history of the school. One of the secrets to our success for the guidance effort in general is that we really take the time to get to know each and every student here individually. And I think that's so important that we're not every single young woman that walks through these doors and leaves to go on to their next stage in their life really has an individual support system and network to help them get to the next step. So in the Courier Times or Inquirer, we listed the colleges that the girls are going to next year. But I would argue that if you compare our list of schools to any school at any price in any locale, we can be very proud of where our girls go. And I hope that, you know, there's no reason to think that with Ms. Perez and Ms. Petrosian and Terry Smoralio in guidance that all our girls get the support they need to handle not just what life brings them between grades 9 through 12, but what they're going to face when they move on to their next level. So that's this part of the agenda. I'd like to turn it over to our next presenter, who's virtual, who'll be calling in, but Mrs. Jen McDonald, who's our Director of Institutional Advancement and the leader of all the Maria Hall effort. And we're very pleased that Mrs. McDonald's been around for 4 or 5 years, is a past parent, so she knows us well and is leading us finding new ways to move our institution forward. So, Mrs. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Kardish, and good evening, everyone. So I'd like to begin by talking about our Educational Improvement Tax Credit. For those of you that are unfamiliar with it, it is a program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that allows you to take the taxes that you are paying to Pennsylvania, either as a business owner or as an individual or a family, and it allows you instead to dedicate those taxes to fund or to actually fund financial aid at Villa Joseph Murray High School. It is a program that this past year we started with 5 businesses and families that had been doing it for several years. This year we grew it. I think funding wise, we tripled what we've done in the past. So we are making great headway with that. In essence, it's a 1 or 2 year commitment. And for a 1 year commitment, you can actually receive 75% credit of your tax liability back on your taxes. You will get benefit on your federal return as well. Or if you go with a 2 year commitment, you would receive a 90% credit back on your Pennsylvania taxes and the benefit on your federal return as well. If anyone has interest in that program, I'm happy to talk about it offline, and you're welcome to call me or drop me an email. I am in my office through the summer, and you can find my email address and my contact information on our website. Annual fundraising. So why is your donation to Villa Joseph Murray important? It's important because the tuition that our parents pay covers roughly 85% of educating a young woman at Villa Joseph Murray. The balance of that cost is covered by fundraising through things like our annual fund, our auction, handbag bingo, etc. Any added donations over and above what it costs to send a girl to the school allows Villa to invest in the school through curriculum development. I know Mrs. Carr was talking about all of the new programs that were available this year, whether it be through the technology programs or our new engineering program. So those donations allow us to continue to grow. It allows us to continue to hire and retain the best possible teachers. Our collections, our goal this year was $275,000. As of today, we're up to $250,000 in collections with a year end of June 30th. So if you'd like to make a donation, you can make it online through our website, or I know that many of our parents should have received, or all of our parents should have received, their annual fund letter that went out in the mail last week. Please be as generous as you can, knowing that it's coming right back to our wonderful girls. Mr. Kardish talked about our capital campaign a little bit. We have been blessed so far to raise $3.6 million of the $6 million that we need. We are still looking for donors. If you are inclined to donate, if you're interested in knowing what the campaign is about, I'm happy again to talk about that offline. But the campaign so far, basically it was what enabled us to build the Performing Arts Center that now we celebrate Mass. We do instrumental and vocal music performances. We do our school shows. We do all of our presentations. We had a number of assemblies there this year. So that Performing Arts Center was a result of the generosity of our donors to the campaign. The next step is the STEAM hallway that Mr. Kardish talked about. That STEAM hallway will allow our young women to compete for those coveted seats in the science, technology, engineering, and math programs that are so important and our girls are so interested in the universities. Our boys' schools have these programs available and they can grow those curriculums within their high schools because they have the space to do it. Villa Joseph Marie would like to offer that same opportunity to our girls. Finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about our Alumnae Association. This year was a great year for our alumni. Basically, we grew our Alumnae Association through actually doing our first election this year. We want to welcome Stephanie Schlegel-Shordahl from the class of 2001 as our new president, and Mrs. Becky Flynn Hensel as our new secretary from the class of 1999. This program, or this Alumnae Association, is really growing and building momentum. This year they were able to promote the mentorship program that many of our current Villa students participate in. And that program allows our girls to connect with an alumna that might be in a science program she's interested in, perhaps medicine, a business program, perhaps she's interested in being a teacher. And it allows that young woman to get to know an alumna, learn about what she does, learn about what she did to get where she is today. So we are continuing to grow that program. Also, our Alumnae Association participated in the Villa Vendor Fair and the Breakfast with Santa, which was so popular back in December. And then they also were very active with our Women's Empowerment Program in February of this past year. We look forward to our next Women's Empowerment Program next February, so keep a lookout for more information on that. I highly, highly encourage you as a parent, as a former parent, and now as an administrator at Villa, get involved in your daughter's school. Studies have shown that students that have parents that get involved do exponentially better in school because of that parental involvement. And that said, and having just spoken a little bit about our Alumnae Association, I would like to turn the tables over to Mr. Dave Alexander, father of Megan Alexander from our class of 2019. I know Mr. Alexander and his wife were incredibly active at Villa, and we are excited to introduce him again this evening. Mr. Alexander.
Well, thank you, Mrs. McDonald. You're much too kind, and that was a really, really, really smooth transition. So thank you for that. And for those of you I don't know, it's a pleasure to meet you virtually. As Mrs. McDonald said, Megan, our daughter, my wife Lynn and I's daughter, graduated last year. So she's now got 1 year of college under her belt. And I chuckled a little bit when Mr. Kardish asked me to share a few thoughts tonight, because a little over a year ago, I did something similar for a different gathering. And unfortunately, I was away, so I had to have a video recorded, which was a lot of fun. I enjoyed recording the video, and it seemed like it went pretty well. So this year I was excited to see everybody, and lo and behold, we have a pandemic. So I hope next year I get to come back and actually, meet some folks I don't know in person, because I'm going to talk a little bit about, my perspective on Villa and our perspective on Villa. And one of the things that I kept coming back to is the people, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So the more people I get to meet, the more I enjoy it. But anyway, yeah, my goal tonight is really simple. It's, as I said, to share my perspective and our perspective over Megan's 4 years, and in the 1 year or so since she graduated. And I would say, if you only remember one thing that I say tonight, and I think it'll be pretty clear, and we love this place. And when I say this place, I don't mean where I'm sitting now. I mean Villa Joseph Marie and all the people. It was a really special place to us for Megan's 4 years, and it still is. And so that would be my one headline message. It was and remains a real special place for us. And when I reflect on Villa Joseph Marie, and I've thought about it a good bit over the years, and I've said this to some people, there's an element of it that's hard to put into words. And as I was thinking about some of the points I wanted to make tonight, the first one really illustrates that. And one of the things is just the feel of the place. And we were there, as Mrs. McDonald said, Lynn or I, or both, for a variety of reasons over Megan's 4 years. And the feel that I got in the place, in the school, in the parking lot, in the athletic facilities, whatever the case, it's just, you feel it in here. And a large part of that, I think, is the people. But when I think back now, with Meg being gone for a year, I couldn't think of a better place, because the high school years, for the father of a child, and particularly for a father of a daughter, I don't think there's a better place that I can think of for those formative years that I would have wanted Megan to grow up. And that's you can't put a value or a price tag on that. So that was my first, real important point that supports a lot of how I feel. I talked about the people, Mr. Cardish, Mrs. Carr, Mrs. Bedrosian. I can go up and down the list. There's many of you. Some I know are on tonight, and all of whom I miss and we miss. But it was pretty apparent from really early on just how genuinely and just how authentically the staff, the faculty, the teachers, everybody at Villa cares about our girls. I don't think there's anybody in there that this is a job for them. I think it's a vocation, a calling, and you can't make that up. And I truly felt that. And I always tell my favorite example. I'm going to embarrass Mr. Carter. She's still on the camera there. But the thing that meant so much to me as a dad, for every time I dropped Megan off in the morning when he was opening the door for the girls. And I say that, yeah, he's a busy guy, and take the time to do that takes a lot. But if you think about that for a minute, that's a pretty strong signal. There's a lot that represents to girls that are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. So the people at Villa meant so much and still mean so much to us. The other dimension of people that I got to talk about is Megan's friends. And I say that because she made many close friends literally on day one and on week one. And so much so that, we'd have Christmas get-togethers at our house for the group of girls every year. One of her friends would have Friendsgiving on, I guess, the night before Thanksgiving. They had a whole bunch of things they did over their 4 years. During their time at Villa, but it has continued since they graduated. And, you go to college, and sometimes you all meet new people, you all get new friends, but they get right back together. They're with social media, they're in constant contact. Even with this pandemic we have going on, they met at the coffee shop. They got their coffee on the app, got it at the curb, and social distance in the parking lot in their separate cars just so they could be together. These are 18, 19-year-old girls that had been off experiencing new things, and they just wanted to do that. And they didn't just do it once, by the way. But so I and as a parent, watching those girls grow up, not just our own daughter, but all of them, watching them grow from the from when we met them to now, it's been inspiring, to be honest, to see them become the young ladies they become. And I don't think that happens by accident from the parenting, and I certainly don't think it happens by accident from Villa Joseph Marie, where, let's be honest, the girls spend a lot of time there over the course of 4 years when they're growing up. And it's funny, we just moved her out of her dorm room a week ago, and we left her last fall or late summer. The Villa girls' pictures were all over the place. The collage over here, the pictures there, the frames on above the desk. So Villa was well represented in Megan's dorm room. But it just goes to the closeness of the relationships that she had with the people, with the faculty, with the girls, with the staff, etc. Little bit of a different vein, but a different thing I definitely wanted to touch on looking back is, and I think this is just awesome, is there's such a diverse set of activities for the girls in our school. You know, they can find their own path, they can find their own course, whether it's athletics, whether it's, you know, the arts, whether it's literature, whatever the case might be, you know. And as Mr. Carter said, the folks at Villa get to know our girls, and there's no one path, there's no right path, there's no wrong path. It's what the girls' passions are, and whatever those passions are, they got the support to do it. And, you know, the example I tell about Megan all the time was in the softball team for 4 years, and she became a captain for 2 years. And when she was a freshman, not super confident and young for her grade, the seniors took her under their wings. And, you know, when we left at the softball banquet in the spring of her senior year, her and her co-captain, they had the freshmen under their wings the whole year. So you see that transition, and it's, you know, you receive and then you give back. And there's a pretty strong lesson there, whether it's softball or anything else you can do. Because I know that kind of thing doesn't only happen on the softball team, but I observe that firsthand. So you know, the diverse opportunities, watching your daughter, you know, grow in that regard, just so incredible. And you know, you know, I've said this to anybody who would listen, and since I have a captive audience, I mean, my daughter achieved her dream. Her dream was to get into Notre Dame. She got in. And she's had a heck of a first year. She's in the place she needs to be. She's continued to grow and to blossom, you know, from beyond Villa. And I don't think that's an accident either. I think she was so well prepared. And in fact, the funny thing is she came back for her fall break in October for a week, and she went to Villa not once but twice to see her old friends and faculty and the folks the staff that she was able to see. So, you know, back from college and for a week, and 2 of those days she spent in the hallways of Villa. So, I mean, just to sort of put a ribbon around this, it's hopefully you can tell I'm talking from the heart, and Villa is a very special place to myself, obviously, to my wife Lynn, and certainly to Megan. I do want to pivot a little bit because Megan graduated, got her off in college, tears were all over the place, especially me. And Mr. Cardish later in the year reached out and asked if I'd be interested in being a candidate for the board of directors. And I was humbled, I was touched, I was excited. And I have to say, just with the stars of my work and personal life lining up the right way, the timing was perfect. And so I had a wonderful life moment that I have to share, and this is a well-intended and a good chuckle, I think. I hope I give you, but I had the opportunity to interview. Now, I've been out of college 30 plus years. I've interviewed a million people. I've been interviewed a million times, but I had the opportunity to be interviewed by not one but 2 sisters. So I was getting ready for my discussion, and I was all prepared, thinking, and I'm saying, oh dear, I'm being interviewed by sisters. This is a little different than everything I've ever experienced in my life. And I got to tell you, so I've had the opportunity to meet the sisters in different events at Villa, and I love them to death. I mean, they're the coolest ladies, the most in touch ladies, the most faithful and devout ladies. And one of them even knows more about baseball than me. That's another story for another day. But I thoroughly enjoyed the interview. I made the cut. I was recommended, and I got a seat on the board, which I'm blessed and thrilled to be a part of. So I've been on for about the last 6 months on the board, and I'm also with Mrs. Gahagan leading up the enrollment committee And I'm so thankful that I was asked. And I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics about what we've done. I will say one thing though, that strategic plan that Tom mentioned earlier, I've done a lot of them in my business life, and that would I saw the end of it when it was all done, and that's a heck of a plan. To just objectively speaking, as somebody who knows a little bit about those things, it was just really, really, really well done. So you should feel very good about that from a very objective set of eyes, because I had nothing to do with the development of it. But the fun thing about the board and the enrollment committee, I kind of got a little bit of, for you Wizard of Oz fans out there, behind the curtain. Remember the great and powerful Oz was behind the curtain. But you get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, because when you're a parent, you know everybody in the capacity of your girl being in school. Well, now I sort of see how some of the decisions are made and who's impacting the decisions and what things are being focused on. And I can tell you that I've been nothing short of extremely impressed, not only with, what we're doing, but how we're doing it. I've sat through 2 board meetings so far this year, and, the collaboration, the transparency, the valuing of the different perspectives, the backgrounds and perspectives of the people that are on the board, as well as on the enrollment committee. I leave one meeting, and I've had a few enrollment committee meetings as well. And I'm just like, this is an impressive group of people that's focused on the right things, and most importantly, focused on doing it in the right way, with one really, really simple goal in mind, and that's the best thing for our girls. Plain and simple, and that's the easiest way as I can say it. And I'm telling you that is like, as a parent, if I rewind 4 or 5 years ago, I'm telling you that as a new person on the board, and really just as I think about all of my life and work experiences that I've had. So I say that in full sincerity, and I can't wait to be part of this journey as now the parent of an alum. And a member of the board, working with a lot of the people that you see here and that are on here tonight. So I'm thrilled and blessed to bring whatever I can to the table. Super committed. I don't know if I'm a former Villa Dad or a current Villa Dad or always a Villa Dad, but whatever I am, I'm still a Villa Dad. So I'm bringing all that as well. So I can't wait to help keep moving the school forward. I do have one little plug I'm going to put in before I give it back to Mr. Kardish, and that is, as part of the enrollment committee, one of the things that we're trying to do is grow our parent ambassadors. It's not a huge time commitment, but they would be people that, for example, at school events would be ambassadors to Villa, for example, maybe with incoming potential freshmen, maybe during the year a phone call or 2 to some folks. So not a heavy workload, and we're super mindful of time, but we are trying to grow that base, because when if you feel a little bit of the passion that I feel, and you want to give back a little bit, it's an incredible community. And Mrs. McDonald said it beautifully, that I do believe that, and it's hard for different people to get involved, and I fully understand that. I mentioned myself with the stars aligning before, but if you have any desire or you have any question or just want to talk about it, you can certainly reach out to myself anytime about an ambassador role or anything else about Villa, or Mrs. Gahagan, and I'm sure Mr. Kardish or Mrs. Carr as well. So that's my public service announcement and my mini plea for tonight. So listen, I thank you, Mr. Kardish and Mrs. Carr, for letting me speak for a little while. I would love to go on, but I know people have evenings, and thank you all for listening. I'm thrilled to what I consider to be a parent representative on the board of directors with some other pretty meaningful experiences that I bring too. So thank you much, and stay well. God bless. And Mr. Kardish, I'll give it back to you.
Thanks very much, Dave. I really appreciate everything that you do and everything that a lot of our parents do. It is a special place, and I think people enjoy giving back. And I'll echo your plea that I think our best sales effort is, word of mouth sales. So if you've had a good experience at Villa, I encourage you to spread the word for us in your community. Tonight, as a final thought, I think it's appropriate for me to acknowledge that each of us in the Villa Joseph Marie community are living in the aftermath of 2 earth-shattering events that have changed our nation and our world. I'm talking, of course, about the coronavirus pandemic and the recent killing of George Floyd. These 2 events have affected all of us at Villa in a profound way. First, We've had 3 months of online learning and staying at home. And then the undeniable evidence of the unconscious racism that pervades our society. For the last 2 weeks, we've seen peaceful marches, protests, and yes, some violence and destruction. I know we are always blessed in this community to be able to always hold on to our shared mission, a mission which guides our thinking, our planning, and our living. Always more, always better, and always with love. We're also blessed to be guided always by the examples of Mother Maria Calpas and our Sisters of St. Casimir, and by witnessing their life work in their communities. I had the good fortune to speak with them at length last week and listen to their stories of their social justice work, and to listen to the pain that they're feeling right now. The sisters have showed us for their entire lives what it means to stand up for what is right, to reach out and love all God's children, regardless of color, citizenship, religious affiliation, or any other category that might be used to describe one of us. They chose to remain on Marquette Boulevard on the south side of Chicago when others told them they should move to the suburbs. They marched in Marquette Park during previous periods of racial unrest. And as recently as graduation, I have spoken about the acts of love our sisters poured forth toward their Muslim neighbors after 9/11, protecting each person's rights to religious freedom by standing and praying in a circle around the neighboring mosque, and by providing opportunities for young Muslim girls to interact with girls from Maria High so they could get to know each other as persons. Villa Joseph Marie High School is a large part of the legacy of the Sisters of St. Casimir. It's up to all of us, every single one of us, to help make the world a better place, a more just world, a world that recognizes that today, not all people are treated equally. This, of course, cannot happen overnight. It will take hard work on each of our part to name this sin of racism, which each of us, in some ways, carries with us because of who we are and the world we live in. We have to unlearn some of what we learn about people who might be different than ourselves. So what does this mean? What can all of us, each of us who are in the Villa Circle, do today, do tomorrow, and do the next day? As with all difficult questions, I always find it useful to begin with the Villa mantra. We can do more, we can do better, we can inject more love into the world and give more love than we receive to all whom we encounter. At Villa Joseph Marie High School, we can and we will address how we teach the effects of racism in our curriculum. This is already a renewed focus for our theology department. And the new young adult literature introduced to the English department includes books that directly address systemic racism. Each of our departments will develop new ways to teach about the endemic injustices in our society, including what we teach in history classes about the past of the racism in our country and our world. Our community service programs will further create opportunities for our students to develop real relationships with people who don't look like ourselves and who don't come from the same socioeconomic backgrounds as each of us does. Our board mission committee will make addressing the concerns of racial equality an institutional priority. And finally, we can do better to reach out to underrepresented populations and neighborhoods and recruit more students of color. We must increase access to this incredible and transformational villa educational experience. I'm able to report tonight that as a result of the recent fundraising, the dollar amount of our needs-based financial aid will be increased tenfold in the coming academic years. In making these improvements, we ask that you help guide us in these efforts. Contact me directly with your ideas, comments, and feedback. By listening, evaluating, improving, and always striving to deliver on our Villa promise, we will adjust and continuously try new strategies and programs. We will get better. In our mission statement, we state plainly that Villa Joseph Marie celebrates the dignity, uniqueness, and potential of each and every individual. It is not right for us to remain in our comfortable cocoon of unconscious racism. If each of us consciously reaches out to one person not like ourselves and really makes an effort to get to know them, we might come to know from deep inside that every single person's life does matter. This is 100% in alignment with our mission, and we pledge to do all we can to move our community ever closer to a more just and equitable part of the world in which we live. You know, one of Mother Maria's favorite saints was St. Francis, and I was reminded today of a fitting directive attributed to him. St. Francis said, "Go forth and preach the gospel, and if you must, use words." I think my words tonight are just that, words. We must follow these words with action. Thank each and every one of you for all your support during this very trying spring. I believe the challenges have made us stronger, and I hope we were able to face them with great love. I look forward to all of us, each of us, making our world a little better in the future. So in closing, I wish you all a good night and a safe and blessed and healthy summer. I truly long for the days when we have a full and noisy and happy school. So God bless and good night.
Everybody, what I would like to do now is, since we can now see the chat option, I just want to take a quick look back. We did record tonight's session, so we will be posting this to our website. So if anybody missed anything, we will be glad to go back to it. I do not see any regular chats right now, so unless I'm looking at anything wrong, I do see a couple of private chats. So to the families that are sending private chats, I will be sure to respond to you directly. To everybody, again, like Mr. Carter said, we just look forward to seeing you. We miss you. We're thrilled to be able to have our seniors here together last week, safely and socially distanced, but we were able to do it. But we really do. The students and staff are what make Villa Villa. We do not make Villa Villa, so we need everybody back in this building to help us out. As far as to the question about next fall, yes, our plan is to be here in person next fall. So our plan right now is that everybody's going to be in person. We'll just make sure that we follow different guidelines. Did you want to share maybe our slightly good news about next fall?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. So here's a save the date announcement. Again, we'll put the St. Corona actually in the window before this, but on September 10th, our opening school mass, our opening liturgy, it's a Thursday, normal schedule. We have a wonderful celebrant to announce, but it will be our new Archbishop. His Excellency Nelson Perez will be the celebrant. And so we're very excited to, we can re-christen our new sacred space in the Performing Arts Center, but I think we're all very excited, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that the health in the entire area, the environment's good, and we all are able to pull that off. But it is very exciting, and it's something that I know I'm looking for.
Yes, so. It'll be exciting to come back to. All right, well, we wish everybody a great summer and a great evening. To anybody that sent us a private chat, I will be sure to get in contact with you either now or via email, whichever will make it easier. But everybody else, have a great night and stay safe and stay healthy.